All right, listen up. You are in the war room now. There's zero time for filler, zero time for warm introductions, and absolutely no time for secondary concepts. This is your uncompromising, high-stakes academic masterclass for the BTC 102 final exam. My colleagues and I have designed this session to dissect only the most exam-critical, high-yield material. Every single concept, mechanism, and framework we're about to cover has a near 95% probability of showing up on your final paper. If you're aiming for a distinction-level script, you need maximum return knowledge, and you need it right now. Mastering the specific modules we're about to go through makes up the strict 80% weightage matrix. It is totally non-negotiable for securing top marks. We're going to break down exactly how questions are framed, how marks are awarded, and literally which precise keywords examiners are scanning your page for to give you full credit.
So here is your strict exam blueprint. We're hitting 5 core modules today: culture and heritage foundations, high-yield architectural frameworks, the medieval cultural synthesis, mass tourism impact traps, and finally, conservation and carrying capacity.
Let's jump straight into Module 1, Culture and Heritage Foundations.
Okay, this first concept, it has an incredibly high probability of appearing on the final exam. Failing to accurately differentiate these two foundational concepts is exactly where average students immediately start losing marks. Students commonly mess this up because they treat these words like they're synonyms, while they're not. Culture is a living, dynamic process. It's literally how a society lives and thinks right now. Heritage, on the other hand, is the inherited legacy. It's what you were given from the past, whether that's the Ajanta caves or classical Carnatic music. The distinction you must absolutely never confuse is this: culture is current behavior, while heritage is an inherited asset. If you write that exact distinction in your script, you've locked in the baseline marks.
All right, let's switch gears and test your focus. Pause for a second. Think about this. If this popped up as a 10-mark question, how would you structure a distinction-worthy answer for staged authenticity? I want you to frame your answer in your head under pressure right now. What exact keywords is the grader looking for?
So here's the ideal thinking process and the massive examiner trap. The theoretical definition is contriving local identity to satisfy foreign tourist expectations. Sounds good, right? But here's the secret. Providing just the theory will get you absolutely zero credit. Graders mechanically scan your script for the prescribed case study. You have to explicitly cite the Greek village of Pukokori, which is historically known as Kapsahora. If you don't map the theory to this exact syllabus reference, you literally fail the question. Jot that down in your short notes right now.
Moving right along to Module 2, High-Yield Architectural Frameworks.
Look, when you're discussing historical monuments, examiners heavily penalize colloquial descriptions. You need to memorize this structural blueprint. Professors frequently test this by asking you to contrast the northern and southern styles. And listen, marks are awarded strictly for contrasting the curvilinear shikara of the Nagara style with the stepped pyramidal vimana of the Dravida style. Notice the gateways too: modest porches in the north versus the monumental, multi-storied gopurams in the south. Please do not use words like tall roof or big door. You must use shikara, vimana, and gopuram.
This academic rigor continues with the structural anatomy of the Buddhist stupa. Take the Great Stupa at Sanchi as your prime exam model. You have to reproduce these exact Sanskrit architectural terms flawlessly on the page. The solid earthen hemisphere, that's the unda. It rests on the circular terrace called the midi. That square balcony at the top is the harmika, and it supports the symbolic umbrellas, the chhatras. The whole monument is enclosed by the stone railing, the vedika, and you access it through the cardinal gateways, the toranas. Attempting to describe these components in everyday language guarantees a failed answer. Writing big dirt mound is definitely not going to get you a distinction. Learn the exact terminology.
Okay, hitting Module 3 now, the medieval cultural synthesis. This era is an absolute core exam priority, and honestly, it's a trap where candidates frequently mash together distinct historical timelines and cost themselves entire letter grades. So let's execute another high-pressure recall drill. Take a second. How did medieval art forms synthesize? Try to visually map out the structural synthesis of Hindu and Islamic traditions in your mind right now. How do you answer this without completely confusing the centuries? All right, here is the precise 3-step examiner rubric you need to rate out for full marks. Step 1. Start with the ideological fusion of the Sufi and Bhakti movements. Step 2. Provide undeniable architectural proof via the 1325 Alai Darwaza. Step 3. Explain the musical synthesis, specifically noting that the combination of the Indian veena and the Iranian tambura actually created the sitar. And here's my major warning for you. Never, ever mix the 10th century Khajuraho peak with this 14th century Indo-Islamic synthesis. You've got to draw a crystal clear timeline boundary in your script. Next up, Module 4, Mass Tourism Impact Traps. We are firmly in applied case study territory now. We demand rigorous terminology to critique the exploitation of heritage. You have to keep this overarching theoretical framework in mind. It absolutely must anchor any long-form essay you write on tourism impacts. The exam expects you to separate the ideal from the harsh reality. Tourism of culture is the ideal. Tourism adapts to local imperatives, ensuring genuine, authentic respect. Culture of tourism, sadly, is the reality. The local culture distorts and degrades itself just to service foreign demands, which leads directly to cultural pollution. Nailing this distinction is what separates a distinction-level analysis from a generic, average textbook summary.
So how exactly does that distortion happen? Well, it's a linear cause and effect chain. Examiners fully expect to see this exact structural process drawn out when you discuss environmental degradation, like the Kovalam effect, where local economies just get destroyed by mega-resorts. It begins with unregulated mass influx. This directly causes an ecological equilibrium imbalance, and the final logical step must be ecotourism mitigation. Literally draw this chain out on your exam paper. It proves to the grader that you actually understand the systemic mechanism at play. Finally, we hit Module 5, Conservation and Carrying Capacity.
We're entering this last module with maximum intensity, focusing on the mathematical limits of fragile microecosystems. You must memorize this definition. Carrying capacity is not just some vague idea of crowd control. It is the strict mathematical limit of daily visitors a fragile microecosystem can sustain before irreversible structural or ecological collapse. To get full marks here, you have to explicitly write that this limit must be calculated before marketing a destination, and you literally have to use the precise examiner phrase, frugal natural resources. Now watch out, because here is a massive exam trap. Theoretical definitions of natural heritage score absolutely 0 unless they are mapped directly to exact prescribed Indian wildlife pairings. You cannot just speak in generalities here. You have to pair Kaziranga National Park with the unicorn rhino. You must cite Ranthambore Reserve when discussing strict tiger visitor limits, and you must pair the Bharatpur Sanctuary with the Siberian crane. If you leave these specific pairings out, the grader is going to assume you don't actually know the applied material at all. So, how do these two things, conservation and tourism, actually survive together? You're going to write down this exact economic blueprint on your exam. The plowback loop strategy. First, collect regulated tourist entry fees. Second, prevent fund leakage to external investors. Third, reinvest those funds directly into ASI, that's the Archaeological Survey of India, preservation and local community welfare. And to guarantee an unquestionable top grade, explicitly cite the exact metric, India's 43 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Doing that proves comprehensive, undeniable syllabus mastery. All right, we've arrived at the ultimate final exam trap. I really want you to think about this carefully. Why do otherwise incredibly intelligent candidates completely bomb when evaluating historical and natural heritage in those 20-mark long-form essays? Just take a second. Think about how you would approach a combined essay question. Here's the brutal truth. Average students treat them as totally separate domains. They'll write one half of the essay about monuments and the other half about nature. But elite students, the ones writing top-tier scripts, they synthesize their interdependence. They show that without the natural geography, the cultural rituals wouldn't even exist. And without cultural preservation, the natural ecosystems just collapse. You have the terminology now, you have the exact examiner frameworks, so go into that exam hall and execute this with uncompromising academic precision. But maybe ask yourself this one thing before you walk in. If these delicate ecosystems collapse tomorrow, what heritage will even be left to test the next generation on?